What you think you are is not who you truly are. The image you hold of yourself, the roles you play, the stories you tell about your past, and the expectations you place on your future, these are all constructs of the mind. They are layers of thought, accumulated over time, and while they may feel real, they are not the essence of your being. These identities, these labels, are limiting. They confine you to a narrow and often painful experience of life, because they are rooted in separation, comparison, and lack. The ego thrives on defining itself. It says, "This is who I am, and that is who I am not." It seeks validation, approval, and recognition to maintain its sense of self. But this self is fragile, easily threatened by criticism, rejection, or failure. It is constantly defending itself, comparing itself to others, and striving for something more. More success, more possessions, more status, because it feels incomplete. This incompleteness is not real, but the ego believes it to be, and so it keeps you trapped in a state of seeking, never finding. The limitations of who you think you are become most evident in moments of suffering. When life does not conform to your mental image of how it should be, the ego reacts with resistance, anger, fear, or despair. It clings to its stories of victimhood or entitlement, blaming others or circumstances for its unhappiness. It cannot see that the source of its suffering is not out there, but within its own identification with thought. The story of me and my life is the prison that keeps you bound. To awaken from this illusion, you must begin to question the very foundation of your identity. Who are you without your name, your achievements, your possessions, your roles? Who are you without the constant commentary of your mind, judging, labeling, and narrating your experience? In the silence of these questions, you may catch a glimpse of the truth. You are not the thoughts in your mind. You are the awareness in which those thoughts arise. You are the still, unchanging presence beneath the ever-changing content of your life. This realization is not something the ego can grasp, cannot be understood through thinking because it lies beyond the realm of thought. It is a direct experience, a shift in perception, where you recognize that the essence of who you are is already whole, already complete. When you no longer identify with the mind-made self, you become free. Free to live without fear of loss, because you understand that nothing essential can be taken from you. Free to connect with others without the need for comparison or judgment, because you see the same essence in them that you see in yourself. Free to embrace the present moment, because you are no longer seeking fulfillment elsewhere. The limitations of who you think you are dissolve when you step into the timeless now. Here, in the present moment, there is no past to regret and no future to fear. There is only life unfolding, moment by moment, through you and as you. When you align with this deeper reality, you discover a peace that surpasses understanding, a joy that is not dependent on circumstances, and a love that is unconditional. This is the truth of who you are. Let go of the image. Let go of the story. Let go of the striving. What remains is the infinite, eternal being that you have always been. Who you think you are is a story constructed by the mind. It is an accumulation of thoughts, beliefs, memories, and roles that you have accepted as your identity. From an early age, society, culture, and family shape this sense of self, and you begin to believe that this narrative defines you. You see yourself as your name, your profession, your achievements, your failures, and the roles you play. But these are just labels, mere surface-level constructs. They are not the essence of who you truly are. This mental image of yourself is the ego, and it thrives on separation, comparison, and the illusion of permanence. The ego constantly seeks validation, approval, and security, fearing its own insignificance. It clings to the past, which no longer exists, and projects itself into the future, which is equally unreal. The present moment, the only true reality, is overlooked in this relentless cycle of thought. The ego thrives in this state of disconnection because its survival depends on your identification with the story, with the form, with the fleeting. But this story is inherently limited. It cannot encompass the vastness of your true being. It cannot grasp the depth of your existence, which is formless, timeless, and beyond all concepts. The ego's narrative is like a cloud passing through the sky. It has no substance of its own. Yet, When you believe that you are the cloud, you forget the vast sky, the boundless space of awareness in which all things arise and dissolve. When you identify with who you think you are, you limit yourself to a fragile, temporary construct. You feel separate from others, from life itself. You experience fear, anxiety, and conflict because the ego is always in a state of lack, always seeking something outside itself to feel whole. But this wholeness can never be found in the external world because it is not of the external world. It is the very essence of your being, which the ego cannot comprehend. To awaken is to see through this illusion. It is to realize that you are not the voice in your head, not the story it tells. You are the awareness behind the voice, the silent presence in which the story unfolds. This presence is unchanging, unconditioned, and eternal. It is the source of all peace, love, and joy, not as fleeting emotions but as the essence of your being. When you see the limitations of who you think you are, you begin to disidentify from the ego. This does not mean rejecting it or fighting against it. It means simply recognizing it for what it is, a tool of the mind, not the truth of your existence. In this recognition, a profound shift occurs. You become rooted in the present moment, no longer trapped in the mind's narrative. You experience a sense of freedom, a lightness, because you are no longer burdened by the need to defend, prove, or enhance a false sense of self. This realization transforms your relationships, your actions, and your experience of life. You no longer see others as separate from yourself but as expressions of the same consciousness. You no longer act out of fear or desire for approval but from a place of inner stillness and authenticity. Life becomes not a series of problems to solve or achievements to attain but a continuous unfolding of the present moment, rich with beauty and wonder. The limitations of who you think you are dissolve when you no longer mistake the story for the storyteller, the form for the formless. What remains is a deep, abiding sense of peace and a recognition of your unity with all that is. This is not something you achieve or acquire. It is what you have always been. It is the simple yet profound truth of your being, waiting to be realized. The limitations of who you think you are not inherent truths but constructions of the mind, layers upon layers of conditioning that you have come to accept as yourself. You have been taught to believe that your identity is a collection of labels, your name, your profession, your social roles, your achievements, your failures. These labels, though useful in the practical realm, do not define the essence of who you are. They are like garments you wear, ever-changing, dependent on circumstances, yet you mistake them for the very fabric of your being. You think, I am my story, my past, my thoughts. But in truth, you are none of these things. These are merely forms arising within the vast formlessness that is your true nature. When you say, this is who I am, you confine yourself to a narrow framework, a self-image shaped by memory and expectation. This self-image is deeply limited because it is rooted in the egoic mind, a mind that thrives on separation, on the illusion of me and other, on the pursuit of what it believes will complete it. The ego seeks validation, fearing irrelevance, and this fear drives you to cling to identities that feel safe and familiar, even if they no longer serve you. Yet, the very act of clinging reinforces the illusion that you are a finite being, separate from the wholeness of life itself. If you were to pause for a moment, to observe the mind's activity without identifying with it, you would begin to see the cracks in this illusion. Thoughts come and go, emotions rise and fall, yet there is a presence within you that remains untouched. That presence is who you are beyond the mind, beyond the persona. It is not something you can grasp with thought, for it is beyond thought. It is the stillness in which thought arises, the silent awareness that perceives all without judgment. Who you think you are is shaped by the external world, by the countless voices that have told you who you should be, what you should strive for, what defines success or failure. But these voices are echoes of collective unconsciousness, and they cannot lead you to the truth of your being. Only by stepping out of the incessant chatter of the mind can you discover the unconditioned reality within you, a reality that is timeless, boundless, and free. You are not the roles you play. You are not the opinions others hold about you. You are not even the opinions you hold about yourself. All of these are transient, They arise and dissolve like waves on the surface of the ocean, but they are not the ocean itself. The ocean is vast, deep, and unchanging. Similarly, your essence remains unaltered, no matter what form life takes on the surface. To awaken to this truth is to free yourself from the burden of identification with the limited self. It is to realize that your being is not confined to the story of me, but is one with the infinite intelligence that animates all of existence. This realization does not mean you reject the relative world or the roles you must play within it. Rather, it means you no longer derive your sense of self from them. You can engage fully with life, yet remain rooted in the awareness that you are already whole, already complete. The limitations of who you think you are fall away when you stop seeking yourself in things, in achievements, in the approval of others. They fall away when you recognize that the present moment, as it is, holds the key to freedom. In this moment, you can sense the aliveness within you, the still presence that is always here. It has no name, no form, no identity, yet it is more real than anything the mind can conceive. Do not let the mind define you. Do not let the world define you. The essence of who you are cannot be limited by any concept or label. It is beyond birth and death, beyond gain and loss, beyond all duality. It is the formless essence from which all forms arise, the eternal now in which all things unfold. To know this is not to become something new, but to recognize what you have always been. Many of us live under the illusion of knowing who we are. From an early age, we begin constructing a sense of self, a mental image shaped by our upbringing, culture, beliefs, achievements, and failures. This identity is deeply rooted in thought and memory, yet it is inherently limited. What you think you are is not what you truly are. It is merely a story, a narrative woven from the past. This story often defines you as a collection of roles: a parent, a professional, a student, a friend. It defines you through labels: successful, struggling, introverted, extroverted. And it confines you through judgments: good, bad, worthy, unworthy. Each of these is just a thought. None of them capture the essence of your being. Consider the voice in your head that narrates your life. It is always commenting, analyzing, comparing, and judging. It tells you, "This is who I am," based on fleeting emotions, opinions, and external validation. But this voice is not you. It is a pattern of conditioned thoughts, a collection of past experiences projected into the present moment. When you believe in this mental construct of me, you live in a state of limitation. You measure your worth by external circumstances: success or failure, approval or rejection, gain or loss. You cling to the idea of my life, and with it comes fear, the fear of losing what you have or not becoming what you think you should be. But can you see the trap? Who you think you are is always seeking something outside itself to feel whole, yet the very act of seeking reinforces the illusion of lack. The truth is, you are not the roles you play. You are not the thoughts that arise in your mind. You are not the emotions that flow through you. These are fleeting phenomena, like clouds passing across the sky. What you are is the sky itself, vast, formless, open, and free. When you let go of identifying with the mind-made self, you begin to see life as it truly is. You are no longer bound by the past or preoccupied with the future. You no longer need to defend or prove anything. Instead, you rest in the stillness of the present moment, where all the limitations of the mind dissolve. To live from this state is to live in freedom. It does not mean that thoughts or emotions cease to arise, but they no longer define you. You can watch them come and go, like waves on the surface of the ocean, while remaining anchored in the depth of your being.